Hi guys, it's Blackie for Shaman's Forge Bushcraft. Okay, in part 2 of our Bushcraft skills knife sharpening, in the first one I showed you, we talked about an overview of the basic ways to do it. Now we're going to get down to some meat and potatoes of it, actually how to do it. Now, I have here an array of knives. I have a military type pocket knife, Condor bush lower, a Mora, a big Granddaddy Barlow, Old Hickory butcher knife, a custom knife from William Collins, my kukri, and a super thin little fillet knife. Now each one of these has a different grind or bevel on it, and because of that you've got to follow the bevel. Now they make devices that allow you to put it in a clamp and follow the bevel exactly, and if you have no idea what you're doing, that's a good way to go, because it gives you a starting point to build a good basis of how to do it. You get the muscle memory, you get the physical, and you get to see what you're doing and have good results. That's the way to go. If you're going to freehand it like I'm about to do, there are certain tips and tricks that's going to make your life easier. Now let me get real close and I'll show you. First off, we're going to start with, let's say, the Condor, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, here's the Condor. Now you've got your sharpening stone. This one happens to be a diamond. What you're going to do is you're going to lay the blade flat down on it. See? Flat, fully on it. And see there's a little gap right here where the edge is? You're now going to tilt it forward until that gap disappears. You're now at the bevel, which is this part right here. You can see how it changes thickness right there. You're laying down the blade and then you're canting it forward so you're on that bevel. Now some knives even have an even further secondary bevel, and you got to go down a little further to make the actual edge touch. The simple rule of thumb is if you sit it up there and you lean it forward and the edge kind of fully touches the rock, you are at the correct bevel for whatever bevel that knife is set up for. Now, you hold it and you kind of not really pick the blade up, but you want to kind of put the weight forward on that edge so it remains fully down. And then you're going to slide forward and draw the knife. You are slicing this stone. Sit up there, lean forward, and pull it as if you're slicing. Now, as you go down this edge, geometry may change a little because this may be a little thicker, this a little thinner. And so what will happen is, if you will notice very closely, I would be coming along and then I get out here and it's like the edge lifts off. What that is the thickness of the blade change. So I have to keep an eyeball on the edge and make sure that the edge is in full contact the whole time. Okay, I put my blade up there, I make sure there's no edge, I make a stroke. Now I can do like 5 strokes, turn the blade around, do exactly the same thing the other way, lay it down, make the edge go flat, and maintain nice, long, slow, and make sure that the edge all the way to the end is dragging along the stone. I'm going to do 5. Come back the other way and do 5. Now actually I'm kind of doing a V. You look on here and it's kind of awkward to do backwards, but it's like I'm doing a V with it right here. And that's how you get it cut. Now that's a fairly thick blade. You have a really thick blade, and this knife is a prototype William Collins, so it's got 2 different angles. I lay it up there and I make that edge disappear. Now as I go through, watch right here. See if I can make sure to get this in focus for you. See that gap right there? That edge comes up and then it goes back and starts cutting it. Due to the geometry of this particular knife, see this sort of step right there? That's kind of lifting it up and keeping it from sharpening that particular place. So I have to use a round piece to do this. In the future I'm going to file that down flat so I can one pull it. But the point being is you flat and then you slide it the full length. A thicker blade will do the same thing. Now we'll try it up here on this front bevel. lay it up there flat, it's that big old gap, rotate it till the gap goes away, and then you just want to maintain wherever your working point is that you're sliding, you go through it. Okay, I mentioned stropping. And in the field I carry something like this. This is 800 grit, wet or dry sandpaper. Okay? You get this in the automotives there, and it comes in these kind of quarter sheets like this. This is 2 of them. Since it's wet or dry, it doesn't come apart easy if it gets wet. More durable in the field. And I'll fold this up and slide it in the back of my canteen carrier, something like that. Now, I can take a stick and split it with my knife and make a flat piece. Just split one in half or plane it out. And then I'm going to take and wrap the sandpaper tightly around that block. I don't want any gaps. I want it to be nice and snug on whatever my sharpening block is going to be. Okay? Like that. Now, say I'm going to take my big old pocket knife right here and I'm going to hone with this, because I've already sharpened it. It's got a good bevel and etc. It's just not as sharp as it was because I've been using it. I'll sit it up here and I will go backwards like this, and I will polish that edge as I do it, just like this, swapping every time, making sure that edge is nice and flat on it. Now, what I'm doing is removing very little metal, but I'm polishing that edge. That's what honing is polishing. Now, when a knife is really good and sharp, it should easily cut really thin newspaper, stuff like that. If it drags a little, it's got a burr to it. Now this one has just a little. So what I'm going to do now is, I'll show you this. That was what I showed before, ceramic rod. I can also use like a ceramic coffee cup bottom, something like that. And I'm going to, like you see the chef steels do, I'm going to remove some of that burr on there. And all I'm doing is keeping that bevel and bearing down and gently sliding it along. I'm not really putting as much pressure as you think, because when I'm honing, all I'm doing is shining it. So I'm not really having to, bear down hard or nothing like that. And so you see now, okay, we take the machete, the kukri, that odd shaped piece of whatever, and I like to go up to a tree, take it and stick it into the edge of the tree. That anchors that very tip. Now I brace it tight up against my chest and put just a little bit of pressure against this. This holds it still. Now I put my stone up here, whatever, and I follow the bevel. I do this side so many strokes, turn it over, harpoon it in, and I do this side so many strokes. This is also my preferred way to use a file on it, like this. Now a file only cuts one way, and I don't want to go toward the edge. Now if I was to go toward the edge, there's a possibility my finger's going to bump that edge. I want to put a guard in front of this, but instead I'm going to pull. So I'll turn the file around so it's cutting, and I will pull it like this. See, let me do it at an angle so you can see it better. I will pull it. So I start up there. Now I'm not going to cut myself, and I pull it so it bites and pulls away. When I turn the blade over, I have to turn the file over, and I go with it. Point, the nub goes back toward you, so it cuts going this way. When I turn it over so the edge is that way, I turn it over so that the edge is cutting. Like that. That's how I sharpen a machete. That's how I sharpen a kukri. And so finally, the final technique, I told you about how I always wear a leather belt. This was something I'd watch my grandfather do quite often. Now usually the way this belt is on me, because you can see the loop that the thing goes back through, is in this configuration. I take it and I turn it around where you have the smooth exterior, which is on the outside, and then you have the coarse interior, which is on the inside where it's been next to my body. That interior has also been coated with salt because of my sweat. That's going to act like a honing medium. So I'm going to pass it sitting cross-legged like this. I'm going to pass it through my leg, take it down like you'd do a tourniquet. I'm going to pull it snug like that. Now I'm going to take my knife, pulling it good and snug, being careful not to cut the belt, and I'm going to draw it up and down the inside of the belt, say 50 strokes. When I get that, then I'm going to turn the belt around and use the outside of the belt, which is now nice and smooth and doesn't have all that salt impregnated in it. Like this. Wrap it around my hand, pull it nice and straight and tight, going away from the edge, and I'll do 50 strokes like that. And thus I strop the knife, the final polishing. I hope this helps, guys. The bread and butter of it all is take your time, be careful, be repeatable. Do it the same way every time and maintain the bevel that you already have on your knife. If you do not like the bevel, you think it's a little too steep or it's a little too blunt, you can change that angle, go all the way back to the coarse stones, create the new, and come all the way back each step. Just sharpen it with a new bevel until it gets to the sharpness you want. Sharpen a knife and then hone it. Strop it. Keep it sharp. Only whenever I'm having to do an extended amount of work with my knife does it truly get dull, in which case I just jump back to my stones, hit it a few times, and then proceed the last 3 steps. I keep my knives very sharp and ready for the field. Sharpening is something I want to do at home. Honing and tuning is what I want to do in the field. Hope this helps, guys. I'm Blackie for Shaman's Forge Bushcraft, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.